We have essentially a war in which Russia feels that this war is at the core of its security interests. The United States insists that it will do anything to support Ukraine's defeat of Russia. Russia views this as a proxy war with the United States. And whatever one thinks about this is a path of extraordinarily dangerous escalation.
Do you have a feeling that Mr. Putin is alone? Is his military in support of him?
A lot of the world is watching the events in horror, and a lot of the world doesn't like this NATO expansion, which they interpret as at the core of this. They want to see compromise between the U.S. and Russia in vote after vote in the United Nations. Basically, it's been the Western countries that have been voting for sanctions and denunciations and other actions, whereas most of the world, certainly most of the world counted by population, is on the sidelines. They just view this as a horrible clash between Russia and the United States. They don't view this as we describe it in the media as an unprovoked attack by Russia on Ukraine. This conflict goes back a long time. It didn't start on February 24th, 2022. In fact, the war itself started in 2014, not in 2022, and even that had antecedents. And so most of the world doesn't see it the way we describe it, but most of the world's just terrified right now, frankly, because it's unbelievable to be hearing on one side, well, we'll use nuclear weapons if we need to, and the other side saying, you can't frighten us.
How close are we to some sort of, I don't want to say hyperinflation, but persistent inflationary impulse well above target in Germany, in the euro area, as they look to these alternative ways to suppress the peripheral region from getting out of control as they raise rates in the front end?
Well, Europe is in a very, very sharp economic downturn. The sharp decline of output and living standards also shows up as a rise of prices. But the main fact is that the European economy is getting hammered by this, by the sudden cutoff of energy. And now, to make it definitive, the destruction of the Nordstream pipeline, which I would bet was a U.S. action, perhaps U.S. and Poland. This is
Jeff,
speculation.
we got to stop there. That's quite a statement as well. Why do you feel that was a U.S. action? What evidence do you have of that?
Well, first of all, there's direct radar evidence that U.S. helicopters, military helicopters that are normally based in Gdansk, were circling over this area. We also had the threats from the United States earlier in this year that one way or another, we are going to end Nord Stream. We also have a remarkable statement by Secretary Blinken last Friday in a press conference. He says, this is also a tremendous opportunity. It's a strange way to, it's a strange way to talk if you're worried about piracy on international infrastructure of vital significance. So I know this runs counter to our narrative. You're not allowed to say these things in the West. But the fact of the matter is, all over the world, when I talk to people, they think the U.S. did it. Just to tell you, and by the way, even reporters on our papers that are involved tell me privately, well, of course, but it doesn't show up in our media. We have major geopolitical conflict, not only U.S. and Russia, but also U.S. and China. So, and again, with a tremendous amount of provocation coming from the U.S. side as well. So we're breaking any sense of stability right now. For the moment, many in Europe are saying, well, the U.S. is our closest ally. We need to hold on. But watch what's happening politically. There's upheaval in Europe, country after country right now. We're entering a period of enormous instability. We're entering the most unstable geopolitical era in many decades. We're entering the first hyperinflation in more than 40 years, and we're entering the first escalation to the nuclear precipice in 60 years. 60 years exactly this month was the Cuban Missile Crisis, and this is the most dangerous moment since the Cuban Missile Crisis. And we see no attempt to tamp this down, to quiet it down. Every day is about escalation. We're going to defeat the other side. We have our rights. We can stand up what we want. We have Speaker Pelosi flying to Taiwan.
Right.
So many provocations in the midst of huge instability.
Well, Jeffrey, we're going to have to leave it there. Jeff Sachs, thank you so much. Greatly appreciate it.